In this content marketing guide, you're going to learn all 7 steps to crafting a successful content marketing strategy for your business. Hey, I'm Jason, and if you're looking for the latest in traffic and conversion strategies, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now, before we dive into the 7 steps of crafting your own successful content marketing strategy, let's go ahead and just talk briefly about what content marketing actually is, so we can make sure we're producing content that does lead to actual customers and leads, as opposed to just random content that entertains potential customers. So content marketing is something that grabs your ideal customer's attention and positions you as a trustable source. And so as we go through this guide, just remember that content that isn't valuable to your ideal customer isn't content that's ultimately going to lead to a new lead or sale. So the very first step in our 7-step process is going over some templates that you can start using immediately for developing your own content. And there are 3 main types of content you can put together when you're just getting started with your content marketing strategy: how-to content, decision guides, and reviews. So how-to content is exactly what it sounds like. You're showing your ideal customer exactly how to do something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the exact same problem solver or result that your product or service offers, but it should be something that's related in your niche or industry that you can help them achieve or overcome. Now, reviews, the next type, is very powerful if you're in a physical product business. And this is simply where you do reviews of products that you sell and reviews of products that you don't sell, because at the end of those reviews you can actually talk about why you choose not to sell that particular product, and then link up to a piece of content that talks about a product or service that you actually recommend. The final one is a decision guide, and all a decision guide does is look at 2 different paths your ideal customer could take and say, you can either take this path and get this result, or you can take this path and get that result. So let's go ahead and go through a brief example of what each one of these would look like for a local bike shop, and then we'll actually get into how you can start generating your own ideas using these 3 different types of content. So our local bike shop has 3 different types of customers: those who are brand new, think it would be a fun hobby; those who have been doing it consistently on the weekend with their friends; and then those serious mountain bikers who are actually training and going to competitions. Well, a piece of content for someone who is just getting started, trying to figure out whether or not they should take up mountain biking as a hobby, a piece of content would be 10 reasons to start mountain biking. This would be a decision style piece of content where you're showing them, hey, you know what, if you're thinking about making this decision, here's everything you should consider and why you would or would not move forward with it. Then for people who are the weekend warriors, they're already kind of in this as a hobby, we can look at bike reviews of specific mountain bikes, and then the 5 best mountain biking spots. Now, obviously, this type of content is going to be really good if you're a local-based business, because even though it's not directly related to selling bikes, you are going to get, the bike shop owner would get the attention of people who are biking in the area. Now, the final one for people who are training for a race, we have 7 trails to improve your endurance and advanced tune-up guide. Now, obviously, that type of content would only be relevant to the really serious mountain bikers or bikers in general. And so something that you do want to consider as you go through this process of developing your content marketing is thinking about who exactly you ultimately want to bring in. Because if you know that your best customers are the weekend warriors and not necessarily the veteran mountain bikers, then you probably want to make more content that's geared towards the weekend warriors versus the veterans or the people who are just brand new. Obviously, you don't have a bike shop, so you'll transfer this to whatever your business is. And that's where this next part comes in, where we're actually going to go through how to figure out what you should be talking about and who you should be talking to. And that is identifying your ideal customer's problems, because content that is about them is always going to perform better than content that is about you and your business. And to ensure the content is about them, we ask these 2 questions. What results are they after, and what is their perceived roadblock? So for our mountain biking example, we would go through these 2 questions for the people who are just getting started as a hobby, people who are looking to do it on the weekends, and then the problems the veterans are facing, because what they're after and the results or problems that they're dealing with are are going to be very different. Obviously, someone who's a veteran mountain biker is going to want content on tuning up their bike, whereas someone who's just getting started or thinking about getting started is not going to find any value in that kind of content. So to help illustrate how this plays out, let's switch from a physical product business to a services business. So let's say we have some sort of consulting or service for people who are trying to grow their YouTube channel. So here we would ask, okay, what results are someone after who's trying to grow a YouTube channel? Well, chances are they like making videos, or they want to like making videos, and they want to be able to do it full time. Okay, you probably want some more, but for example purposes, let's just keep it there. Then when we look at the roadblocks or problems they're facing, they probably think they need better video quality. They're not happy with how their videos are ranking. Maybe they think they need more views or more subscribers. And with these two simple questions, we're actually going to have everything we need in order to develop the rest of our content marketing strategy. And because we've started with the customer and not ourselves and our business and what we want to sell, all of our content is going to be that much more positioned to actually connect with your ideal customer versus other companies where they just talk way too much about themselves. Now, when it comes to making sure that you have enough content and you don't run out of content ideas, now that you know the results and problems, we already went through 3 different types of content you can make with the templates, it's time to create your content pillars. Now, all content pillars are broad categories that you're going to talk about and rotate through. So you're going to want to create 3 to 5. So looking at the results and the roadblocks that you came up with, you're going to want to try and categorize them into 3 to 5 big groups, and these are going to become your content pillars. I recommend a minimum of 3 because no matter what type of medium or what type of content you're making, we'll get to mediums in a little bit here, you want to post at least 3 times a week. That should be your initial goal. Even if you don't have the resources, time, energy to post 3 times a week, that should be your ultimate goal for your content marketing strategy. So having at least 3 pillars ensures that you can evenly rotate through different topics. That way you don't do 5 or 6 review posts in a row, or all you do is how-to content. You definitely want to mix up the different templates that we talked about. And doing it this way will ensure that you have a good mix of content, but you don't get stale in posting the same type over and over and over again. So in our example here, our 3 pillars would be channel growth, video production, and monetization tactics. And so each day of the week would represent a different piece of content. And now we'll know that Mondays are one type of content, Wednesdays are another type of content, and Thursdays or Friday are another type of content. Obviously, as you post, you'll be able to learn about which days and times of the week work best, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday is typically a good place to start if you're able to do 3 posts a week. And just like that, you have a complete strategy for the type of content to make, and you already have a system for staying on top of your content calendar. So if you're getting some value, go ahead and hit that like button. When it comes to the actual post, like figuring out what specifically to talk about, you have a couple of great resources. So even if you're not going to be doing YouTube videos, the YouTube suggestions box and a site called Answer the Public are really going to be valuable in terms of coming up with actual ideas. Because while you have this great list of results and roadblocks or problems, you want to do a double check to make sure that people are actually looking to solve those problems or actually want those results. And so using something like Answer the Public, SEMrush, BuzzSumo, or the YouTube suggestions box is going to be a final check to make sure that you never run out of content ideas, and the content ideas you have are actually going to connect with your ideal customer, that people are actively looking for those. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out the links in the description on how to use these tools. Now that we've come up with the content and your frame, and we have your content calendar somewhat put together, it's time to talk about the actual medium that you're going to use, because there's 3 main mediums of content when it comes to your content marketing strategy. You have video, then you have audio, and then you have written. And not all mediums are created equal. Obviously, audio and video are going to give you a lot more flexibility when we get into the multiplier and syndication part of your strategy. But what's most important here is you choose a medium that you want to get good at, because nobody's good at video when they first start, or one that you're most comfortable with. So for example, if you really enjoy writing, then go with blog posts. If you're going to be delegating this to someone on your team, then it's just going to be a matter of budget. And when we get to multiplier and syndication, you'll see approximately how much producing each one of these costs. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're going to do video, it's YouTube. If you're going to do audio, that's going to be podcasting. And of course, if you're going to do written, that's going to be a WordPress blog. You want to make sure that you actually own your blog. You're not going to be using Wix or Squarespace or whatever other page builder is out there. It needs to be on WordPress. You need to own it if you're going to be doing a blog first strategy. Now, we need to make sure that the content we're making actually drives people to take the ultimate action that we want, which is either enter their name and email on a landing page or actually purchase a product or service. And this is where calls to action comes in. So you can have calls to action throughout your content, or you can just have calls to action at the end of your content. And we'll go through 2 examples, and then we'll go through what types of calls to action, because not every piece of content should be buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. So when it comes to calls to action, there are 2 very simple ways you can do it, whether you're doing a video, a podcast, or even a blog post. And that is simply at the end of the piece of content, offer a next step, offer something more. And so what you can do here's a quick example of what we could do at the end of a YouTube video that's talking about how to grow a YouTube channel. We can say, if you want to learn more, you can check out our YouTube growth webinar here. And then you'd simply link in the description to your webinar or your landing page, and they're off to the races into your sales process. Another thing you can do is you can shorten that and say, hey, if you want more help with this, if you're a services-based business, then you can say, click the link in the description to schedule a free, 15 or 45-minute strategy call. Obviously, that will be a sales call for you, but you want to position it as something of value to get people to enter their name and email. And if you're a physical products business, then your review content and your decision guide content are where you're going to link directly to the products on your website. Now, something that's very important to note that I mentioned earlier is not every piece of content should link directly to buy my stuff, buy my stuff. So here is a somewhat convoluted diagram of how this actually plays out. So let's say we have 3 pieces of content. So let's say our first piece of content, we link directly to a landing page where they enter their name and email, and then they start the sales process. The next piece of content, instead of linking directly to the landing page, we can link them to another piece of content that can link to a landing page or link to another piece of content. And finally, we can just ask them to follow, like, or subscribe. And so each piece of content should be designed to get them to do something, but your ideal customer isn't necessarily always going to be ready to make that purchasing decision. But we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, pushing them to next, we stay on top of mind. And so you can see here that even if you don't directly tell them to go to a landing page or go purchase something, you can link to a piece of content that tells them to go to a landing page or purchase something. So that way you always have a path that's leading them ultimately to where you want them to go. Now, as we come on the home stretch of your content marketing strategy development plan, this next one, the multiplier technique, is something that you don't have to do right out of the gate. It's really easy to compare what you're doing to other companies and influencers in your niche or industry, and just know this is something that you can work your way up to. And this is where you take a piece of content that you've created and you chop it up into little bitty pieces, or you change the medium so that it can be posted and placed elsewhere. So this crazy chart, you can always pause the screen to read through everything, is a brief guide on how you can turn any piece of content into another piece of content on another channel. So I'll quickly go through an example here with a blog post. So for a blog post, if you wanted to turn it into a podcast, you can rewrite it as a script, or you can simply read it and then record yourself reading it, and now you have a podcast and a YouTube video. You can see that you'd go through a very similar process for transforming a podcast or video into the other mediums, and this is something that you definitely want to be delegating. So here's a version of the chart with the approximate prices it might take in order to hire an experienced freelancer to transform whatever piece of content you have into these other mediums and optimize it for the other platforms. Again, this is something you don't have to do in the beginning. Something that's awesome about content marketing is once you've created created that core piece of content, you've been posting 2 to 3 times a week, you can always go back and have someone retroactively take your content and transform it or transfer it into another medium or onto another platform. There's no rules against going back and doing that. Of course, as long as the content's still relevant. So the final piece of the puzzle here is actually one of the easiest, but something that everyone seems to forget when they first start with their content marketing strategy, and that is replying, actually engaging with people who ask questions and leave comments on whatever content medium you're working on. So if you're doing video and you have YouTube videos and a YouTube channel, then reply to every single comment. If you have a blog and you turn comments on, reply to those comments. And the reason that this is so important, 2 things. Number 1, your competitors aren't bothering to do this. So by simply actually taking the time to reply, you are going to increase the engagement on your content, and you're actually going to start building relationships with your potential customers, and your other potential customers who don't actually leave a comment will see that you actually reply. And number 2, for us as business owners, you're going to start learning about what's good about your content and most importantly, what's bad about your content, because the questions that come in are going to show you where you've missed something, or you're going to get feedback on how you explain things or the type of content you're creating, and you'll be able to use that as a feedback loop to improve your content. And that's personally why I reply to every single comment across our YouTube channels. So thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope you got some value out of this video and you have a much clearer picture on what it takes to put together a content marketing strategy. I know this was a long guide, so make sure you check out the timestamp table of contents in the description to easily come back to this video and skip around. Speaking of replies, I do read and reply to every single one, so comment below with your content marketing questions, and if you have anything to add or subtract to what we talked about here, comment below as well, because your insights and experience is going to help other business owners be more successful with their content marketing strategies. So go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive content marketing and conversion videos just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.